Of all the 13 films in this franchise, I can honestly and unequivocally tell you this was the one that I had the most excitement for its release. I mean, finally we were getting Jamie Lee Curtis back. We had a prominent creative mind from the Scream franchise contributing to this new outing. And no, I repeat, no sign of the Thorn cult whatsoever. And on top of that, this was the first Halloween I was going to be able to drive my piece of shit car to go and see. I mean, we were kings and queens in 1998, folks. And water jokes aside, let's talk about the reunion that we got 2 decades in the making between Laurie Strode in Shape in 1998's Halloween H20. All right, now dig this setting. It's October 29th, 1998. Langdon, Illinois this time around. And we get that whimsical Mr. Sandman tune welcoming us to the film and reintroducing the audience to Nurse Marion Chambers. Now, she is the woman who drove the station wagon in the very first Halloween film. She narrowly escapes an encounter with Michael. Not quite as lucky in Halloween Kills. But here she arrives back home, cigarette dangling from her lips, and she notices somebody has broken in. Now, this woman's been through it, okay? So if she's got a close call at home, she's not taking any chances. She goes next door where there's 2 teens. They call the police, and then the teens decide, played perfectly by Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Jimmy, that he's going to go ahead and go next door and check things out anyways because, you know, why not? If you're going to show off, you might as well show off for an old lady. Now listen, I'm not ashamed to tell you I just waited for the cops, but maybe Jimmy assumed, like we end up assuming, that one day he would inherit the mantle of Batman, and he decides to get his hero on and go next door anyways. But aside from swiping a few beers for he and his buddy before an ironing board scare, all he really finds over there is a trashed office that Marion inspects herself before noticing that her file on Laurie Strode has been found and has been emptied. Putting 2 and 2 together, she realizes that, you know, it's almost Halloween and somebody's been rifling around in her house looking for information on Laurie Strode. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out nothing good is going on. She gets spooked. She goes back next door to where the boys have been for the last handful of moments, enjoying their beers, and she finds them dead, Michael waiting, and that glorious mask from The Curse of Michael Myers sitting atop his ever-angry dome. 3 up and 3 down for this boogeyman right away as Marion puts up a fight, but dies trying to get the attention of the cops who show up at her home just as she's next door in Jimmy's home. Michael pulls away in the car, and the detectives that show up later do a great job of running down what Marion has been up to all these years. They tell us that she's been the primary caretaker for Dr. Loomis in his fading years, and they question whether or not any of this was actually the crime of Michael Myers. Now, this is a great cold open. And we get to a title screen and then the wonderful theme playing along with Donald Pleasant's voiceovers. And even though he couldn't be there, they did a really good job of making it feel like he was there. And I love that they did that. I mean, I believe this was the voice of the same guy from Halloween Kills that we had just talked about on the last review, and it felt good. It made you excited to be seated for whatever we were about to get for the next 90 minutes. And then, man, we go through like a classroom. I felt like I was at Hogwarts for a minute, but we're navigating this school and this class and a desk that says Carrie Tate, before we get a closet flashback from that awesome scene where Laurie's hiding in the closet and Michael busts through to get her out of the OG 1978 film. And then we see that we're in a dream of Laurie Strode's, aka Carrie Tate's. Now, she faked her death and she's been living out here in California this entire time, hoping like hell that her brother never runs into her again. And she wakes up here screaming, losing her mind, before her son John comes in to console her. And he's played perfectly by Josh Hartnett. I'm a big fan of Josh Hartnett. And, Lucky Number 11, if you haven't seen it, you should go see that. A fantastic actor. And I believe this was his first role. He didn't come back to any other offerings in the franchise because I think after The Faculty, he just went on to do bigger things. Faculty is another great movie we'll talk about at some point. But he comes in and he calms his mother down and he goes to cycle through her medicine cabinet of every med you've ever seen in your life. This is where, we find ourselves here And this is a great change of scenery. We're in Summer Glen, California, at Hillcrest Academy High School. And Carrie Tate, who is Laurie Strode's new name, she is the headmistress. But just so we're clear, I'm calling her Laurie Strode from now on because I'm not going to go back and forth with all that. She's always going to be Laurie Strode. Still, even after 20 years, she's suffering from what happened to her all those Halloweens ago, and I can't say I blame her. I don't know how I would handle something like that, but it makes her an overbearing, way too protective mom to John, who, it's just written all over him in this movie. He's just about had it. He's newly 17, and he's really pissed right now that his mother won't allow him to take a school trip to camp at Yosemite with the rest of his friends. He's really irritated about that. But there's perks, there's perks to not being able to do that. Because of this, he and his girlfriend Molly, along with the horny couple on campus, Charlie and Sarah, they're planning to have their own Halloween party back at school. Since none of them are planning on going to Yosemite, they're going to have a little fun back home of their own. Speaking of horny, enter Adam Arkin. He plays Will Brennan here, and I believe he's the school guidance counselor, perhaps. He's definitely the boyfriend of Laurie, but they're kind of doing that on the down low. They paw at each other every chance they get, and I listen, I can't blame the man because Jamie Lee Curtis is a forever fox. He's good here. I thought he was really good in this movie, but every time I see him, I see the guy from Impeccable Smokes and Sons of Anarchy season 2, and that guy just sucked. And there's a weird Michael Myers tie-in with that season, but we're talking about this movie now. We're not talking about biker gangs. Brief but impactful scene with a woman and her daughter. They're in a car that looks like a cartoon is the best way I can describe this thing that they're driving. But they stop at the most isolated rest stop that you're ever going to find in movie history, and it looks like Michael Myers is there. They don't see him right away. The little girl's got to go. Woman's room is locked. They go in the men's room. The little girl's in one stall, mom's in another stall, and then all of a sudden the mom sees her purse get swiped out from underneath that stall. Really scary shit, right? Because she didn't know anybody was there in the first place. And to her credit, when her daughter screams shortly thereafter, she doesn't hesitate. She rushes out to her aid, only to find spider webs in her little girl's hair and the jalopy that they drove in on being driven away by the Shape. Much like with Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, I thought it was important that they showed the impact these events had on Laurie Strode. Both versions of Laurie Strode, both Jamie Lee Curtis and Scout Taylor Compton. And in both versions, they're handling it their own way. And this one, she's doing her very best to hold it together, but she's medicated. And obviously, when she gets close to Halloween, she spikes. And there's a really good scene where she goes to lunch with her guy, and as he's away at the bathroom, she calls over a waiter and asks for another glass of wine. And she still has a glass of wine that's full. So he goes to get the one, she downs the one that she has, hands the empty to him, takes the new one like nothing's changed, nothing. I mean, that's a perfect, I grew up with an alcoholic parent. That is an alcoholic parent move. And I understand it and I feel it. And you can feel her anxiety in this movie as Halloween approaches. So I thought she did I thought Jamie Lee Curtis was so good in this movie. You believed her so much, not only as a headmistress of a school. I thought she was good there. You believe her as a trauma victim. You believe her as a mother. And at the end, you believe her as a badass. I mean, the scenes between Laurie and her son John were just fantastic. I mean, they're great actors. So, of course, they're going to be good at their craft. And it's going to just resonate throughout the screen. The relationship, you could tell, is strained. We get a great back and forth when she catches him getting a little off-campus lunch, flips out on him. So he winds up flipping out on her and tells her that if she wants to stay handcuffed to her dead brother, she's more than welcome to, but he's not sticking around for her. He's just not interested in it. And it's really, you can, in a couple of scenes together and through a couple of discussions, you can feel that relationship. You can feel what it must have been like, not only for her, but for him. And, through just a couple of set pieces, you kind of got an idea of what that childhood had to have been like. And bravo. I thought they did a great job here. And this movie made me interested in seeing what Josh Hartnett did next, and he didn't disappoint. As soon as all those buses pull away for Yosemite, that is when Michael decides to descend upon Hillcrest and make his move. And he winds up tricking LL Cool J's character Ronnie into opening the gate so he can slide right in. Eyes up, Ronnie. I mean, come on, man. Now, I loved that once Will finally had Laurie alone at night, he's putting the full court press on her, and she chooses to tell him, of all nights, that night she decides to tell him about her past, says, "My brother killed my sister with a large kitchen knife." And the dude is like, that is horrible. Take your top off. Legend shit. I mean, he can't be stopped. But once Laurie knows that Michael is out there, like, the phones are dead. She realizes John didn't go to Yosemite, and then Ronnie comes up and tells her that there's a strange car at the gate and there's no driver. As soon as she is aware of all of this, she goes full mama bear and sets out to find her son. Now, the scene where John and Molly wind up finding their friends dead, they take off, and then Michael catches up to him, grabs Molly, goes to draw his knife back and stab her, and John just tags him twice right in the mouth before he gets cut in his leg, and then Molly grabs a rock and just pops him in the face. I really love that scene because they race away. They go behind this gate. It's a really weird sort of setup. I don't go to private school, so maybe this is a common thing, but there is a gate that's got a lock. Molly is barely able to unlock it, and then they get behind the gate to where Michael can't presumably get to them, but he can almost kind of reach them, but Molly drops her keys. And then Michael decides, I can't reach them, I'm going to pick these keys up, open this gate, and they're mine. They're sitting ducks. And then that's when they're pounding on the door, and Jamie Lee Curtis eventually answers, and we get that scene, that visual that you all know, of Jamie looking through this window back at her brother, and her brother looking back at her. Really cool stuff. That was a great scare right there. Chef's kiss, baby. So in this movie, in this 20th anniversary movie, what did Halloween H20 absolutely kill? And, you know, the first on the list is the return and performance of Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode. You know, her trauma is still haunting her and leading her to find solace in the bottom of a bottle, pills, booze. It doesn't really matter. She's trying to find a way to medicate, and that's believable, as is her need to try to keep that at bay as best she can for her job and her child. Not doing a very good job of it. It's really bleeding out onto John quite a bit. You know, she's got that entire student body to care for as well. But man, she does not bat an eye when she knows that Michael is back. You know, I thought she was full-blown Ripley in this movie, and I loved every second of it. You know, and a lot of people talk a lot of shit about this movie being too much like Scream in look and tone, and I didn't mind that at all. You know, and I get it, you know, because it's there, and they even play Scream 2 on the TV at one point in the film, but the young cast felt great here. Josh Hartnett, poised for massive things. We talked about him plenty, but you could just see that in his performance. Michelle Williams was great. I mean, she went on to do huge things as well. LL Cool J rocked the bells in this movie. He wasn't a kung fu expert, but he was more than capable of carrying his own water. Jodie Lynn O'Keefe, I've always been a fan of her. She helped. She was actually watchable in one of the least watchable Crow movies. She's always welcome over here at Aging Gracefully. So the cast, I thought, was really fun, and it made it believable. Like, you know, Will, when he finally accepts the fact that he is dating the survivor of the Halloween babysitter murders, he does a great job of trying to grasp the moment. But I thought everybody here was really watchable. They were good and they were believable, and it was a talented cast of a body count, no question about that. This movie to me just felt more adult. You know, the original, he's after a teenager. Same thing with the second one. You know, the third one, he takes a little bit of a siesta, and then 4, 5, and 6, he's after small children. You know, here with Laurie and this boyfriend of hers, it feels a little more mature, and again, it feels fresh and new. And this is the coat of paint I think the franchise really had to have to keep it on. Little did we know what was rounding the corner with the next movie, but right now we feel like we're in a really good spot. Now, what was it about Halloween H20 that killed the movie? And I think we're all thinking the exact same thing. I mean, let's talk about these masks, shall we? How do you screw up so consistently the most iconic thing about arguably the most iconic fictional killer in cinema history? I just don't get it. Gang, they fucked it up 4 times in this movie. They started off with one of the best masks in the franchise. That opening scene with that mask from Curse of Michael Myers, it was amazing. And I don't, why would you take, I mean, how did you screw that up? I just don't get it. And, one of the masks was even CGI. Literally, I'm fumbling over my words trying to come up with ways to describe how disappointing their choices were as it relates to the simplest aspect of this killer. Don't fuck up the mask. It really took me out of some of the scenes where everything else was scary. The setup was scary. The peril that our characters find themselves in was scary, and you put yourself in their position, and then you see the killer rounding the corner and something that's got these 6-inch wide eye holes, and you want to start laughing at it. I just don't understand it. The mask situation got so bad in this movie. I really think that if they had stuck with the Curse of Michael Myers mask that they had in that opening scene with Nurse Marion, then we're talking 3-4 spots higher on this countdown easily. The mask really, really kills this movie for me. Dollar General mask decisions aside, this movie's a 7.5 out of 10. I was so happy to have Halloween back on our screen. I was so happy for there to be no cults involved in the making of this film. It felt fresh, them moving out to California and being set at a private school, but familiar still, because we got our final girl back in action, trying to protect her students and her son from that dickhead big brother of hers. And I mean, that ending. I mean, come on. Tell me you didn't audibly gasp when Laurie went full final boss with that axe. Emphatic way to close a movie. Just unreal to watch. When we also got some great inclusion of Jamie Lee Curtis's mother, Janet Leigh. The car from Psycho was there. We had some Psycho references in this film. They did a really, really strong job here. That's going to wrap up our review of Halloween H20, the 7th best Halloween film in our humble opinion over here at this channel. This is Aging Gracefully. I'm Matthew Essex. Subscribe, like the video, click the notification bell. Hang out with us and talk about Halloween movies while we're in the season, because baby, this is the best season there is, and we'll be here doing it. So I appreciate you guys checking it out. I will see you all on the other side.